Well, we are absolutely thrilled and honored to have as our guest here in the Catholic TV living room, Dr. Carolyn Woo, President and CEO of Catholic Relief Services, and the first woman president, too.
Well, thank you.
It's great to have you with us today.
A pleasure.
You know, you were in town, and we just had to bring you into the living room for a chat. And the reason is, and Adam, who's right behind this camera, was saying to me before the interview, he said, oh, CRS, Dr. Woo, they're in the news all the time here on Catholic TV. And that's
Give him a raise.
I will give him a raise. Thank you. And it's great to have you here because now you can tell us exactly what CRS is and maybe a little bit of the history, if you could.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
CRS is Catholic Relief Services, and it was actually started by the Bishops' Conference in 1943. The early work was to bring refugees out of Europe after the war. And actually, there are quite a number of Americans of Polish descent or Lithuanian who were taken out of Europe by CRS.
Okay.
So now today we're almost 70 years old. We do a lot more than just relief. We do a lot of international development. Our work includes shelter, agricultural enterprises, livelihood, children, protection of children, education, global health. Our footprint is over about 100 countries.
Incredible.
We touch the lives of over 130 million people, and all of this work is done in the name of the U.S. Catholic Church. So actually, this is your CRS, number one. And number two, you need to know that it really does extraordinary work. And it's not just about the common good. It's about serving the common good with uncommon excellence. So for example, our expense ratio is, we keep it below 10%, and we've been running at about 7%. So every dollar you give to CRS, we try to get 93 cents into the field. And the final thing is, what is our mission? And our mission is really from Matthew 25, and what Blessed Teresa of Calcutta says, the one-hand gospel. And that is, you did this to me. So CRS is your CRS. It's an extraordinary organization, and it does this work because that's what God asks us to do.
Now, just a little bit about yourself, Dr. Woo. You have a wonderful husband and 2 sons, correct? Where are you from?
I was originally from Hong Kong. My parents left China when the communists took over China. And so in some ways, we ourselves were immigrants starting a new life. I was educated by the Maryknoll sisters. So if you think about closing this circle, the Maryknoll sisters, of course, were missionaries from New York at first, Ossining.
Okay.
And they were founded exactly 100 years ago. And they decided to go to places where other people would not go. And it was started by Mother Molly Joseph, that was her name. And she often wondered why Catholic women did not get a chance to go overseas and be missionaries. So instead of just wondering about it, she did something about it. She founded this order. So the sisters went over to China. They were also expelled by the communist government.
Okay.
So they went to Hong Kong and started these schools. So I was enrolled in the Maryknoll Sisters School from grade 1 to 12. Starting about 2nd grade, I was taught in English because the sisters could not teach in Cantonese. So the happy compromise was that we were to learn English. And from them, I learned so much. It wasn't just a superb education. It was an attitude of can-do. They never had a lot of money, but they would collect seed money. One time, they gave up public transportation so that they would have seed money. And with that seed money, they applied for a grant from the British government and started a school and started a clinic. So for the girls, there was never the question of can't. We were always can. But I also learned about faith. And that is, at a certain point, you wonder what made these women brave enough to leave home, to go to a place where they didn't speak the language. It was the time also before television. They didn't get to go home. There were all sorts of diseases, you know, typhoid, cholera, yellow fever. All those were very real threats. Why these women would leave their home and come and teach us? Because they didn't know us. And so the whole idea of what faith is all about, that we didn't just learn catechism, but we saw that in action for 12 years. And there was so much joy, there was so much humor, they had so much love for us, they just adopted us as their family. So I think the gift that I received from the Maryknoll sisters was not just a superb education, you know, just being able to speak English. Not just being able to speak English, but to speak your mind. Not just being able to read words, but to read about ideas. And ideas allow you to think about alternatives, a different life that you want. But beyond that, they taught us to care. They taught us to understand people who were not as fortunate as we were. And then they taught us about faith. That faith allows you to do things that you otherwise would not, that you forget how small and all of our own limitations, because if you go with God, good things happen, and it was so happy.
And you are certainly a woman of great faith and a sense of the mission of the church. The sisters gave you that. I'm sure your family as well. And we're getting near the end of the interview. I just want to help people to know how they can work with CRS. I'm thinking during these days of Lent, of Operation Rice Bowl, but also where they can donate and assist CRS all throughout the year.
Absolutely. Operation Rice Bowl is one. Go on our website, www.crs.org, and also work with your parish to sponsor a speaker from CRS.
Perfect. And Operation Rice Bowl is something that people are familiar with in schools and parishes all throughout the country as a way to donate, especially during these holy days of Lent. Well, because you're here, I want you to stick around. And after the show, we're going to record a special interview, which is going to be available at Facebook, at facebook.com/CatholicTV. And I want to talk to you about, specifically, my mouth isn't working today, about public policy and how CRS works to alleviate some of the problems and some of the hot spots around the world by affecting public policy. Would you stay around?
Yes, thank you.
That'd be great. So do pay attention to our special page there at facebook.com/CatholicTV, where you can hear more about CRS from the mouth of the President and CEO, Dr. Carolyn Woo. So anyways, thank you so much, Doctor, for being with us.
Thank you.
And we're going to go back to more of This Is the Day.